So, Parliament had its say about the march for Australia. Certainly lots of other people have, including, again, lots of people who attended the marches over the past few days. Well, it was pretty obvious where the government was on this. You see, the government believe that any conversation about migration is somehow racist, any version of it whatsoever. They say that these rallies were, they say that the election campaign was, they say that even conversations at the height of the million people coming back via COVID or coming in after COVID, racist, racist, racist. And ringing that bell today was the multicultural minister, of course on the ABC.
These marches were a con by the far-right neo-Nazis to prey on some legitimate concerns around housing and around cost of living in order to propagate their anti-immigration, racist agenda.
Well, what a difference a day makes, and no doubt much of the response that the politicians have received today from those of you who went to those rallies. The Prime Minister has come out tonight and said that there were many good people who were amongst the marches. So they have gone from trying to swerve it all to now starting to find the nuanced position. One that we all knew would be true, but one that, well, I didn't know was going to end up being where people would have landed that were observing it rather than just participating in it. For her part, Susan Ley was on social media today talking about this as well today. And she says that we've seen cherished landmarks like the Sydney Harbour Bridge and the Opera House turned into backdrops of division, with people supporting terrorist organisations and holding up images of the Ayatollah Khomeini, the leader of the Iranian regime who sponsored global terror on Australian soil. Remember that last week? And supports Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic State. People of goodwill have been present at recent demonstrations, but their voice was hijacked by those seeking to glorify terrorism. That can never be accepted. The reality is that is the nuanced position here, but many people, they want to argue the black and white of it, and I understand. But today I want to turn my attention to the nonsense that played out in the Senate. One of the great race baiters of Australian politics is, I believe, the co-leader of the Greens now, Mehreen Faruqi. And she wanted the Parliament to, well, go as far as she would normally in declaring anything and anyone who disagrees with anything that she has to say to be racist.
On the weekend, neo-Nazis and far-right extremists spoke and led marches across our cities, publicising their hate and racism. Thousands of people joined them in the streets to call for an end to immigration and for the expulsion of, let's face it, people of colour from Australia. This country's violent discrimination and racism started with colonisation and has never really stopped.
Well, of course, basically none of that is true, but does that surprise anyone? Thankfully, there was some pushback, and I tell you what, well done to Michaelia Cash. I was watching this afternoon, and she, in real time, pushed back on the narrative that was being suggested and the layers of BS that it was built upon. And of course, remember, this is a person who we know has been to protests where, among other things, the person she is posing with is holding up posters suggesting that the Jews should go in the bin.
It's also not lost on me. The irony of Senator Faruqi moving this motion is clear for everyone to see. This is very important for Australians to understand. This is the senator who marched in a rally a few weeks ago where individuals were proudly holding a portrait of the Ayatollah Khomeini carrying a machine gun.
Honestly, well done. Now, of course, when a motion like that is put up, every other representative of the major political parties is able to try to amend it. Unsurprisingly, the government ending up with the numbers has more power than anyone else in the parliament. But it was fascinating to see the motion that the coalition was trying to change this into. Now, this was defeated. It was defeated instantly. But have a listen, and can you find any words in here that you don't agree with?
Our amendment goes to the simple principle: Australia must defend free speech and peaceful assembly, while drawing a hard line against extremism of every kind.
Well, of course, that was chum to the Greens, who jumped right in and took the bait.
And we heard yet another barrage of hate from the coalition just then. The coalition who are going to come in this place and use their numbers in this debate to run cover for neo-Nazis, to prevent the Senate passing a motion condemning neo-Nazis as part of their hateful, divisive, ugly politics that so often they direct against Senator Faruqi.
Now, it is extraordinary, and I know that the nuanced position is not as exciting sometimes as the one that's in blazing red lights. But as we have seen, with the march across the Sydney Harbour Bridge involving tens of thousands of people, that understandably, when you see one person holding up a sign with a swastika on it, the leaders of that march marching again with the poster of the leader of Iran, whose military guard tried to perpetrate and successfully was able to pull off intimidation tactics, let alone a terrorist attack in this country. Understandably, this is used to say everyone on that bridge is of the same stripe. Well, in the same way that that is not true, it is not true that because of the worst elements that I was afraid of last week that turned up, that everyone who went to the march can be tarred with that brush. Equally so, it is not true. The reality is that, yes, there was something powerful that happened this weekend. I was focused in the lead-up to that event about my concerns about who was going to hijack it. But of course, the extreme majority of people who turned up. There wasn't a single problem at many of the marches that happened around the country, certainly the one that happened here in Darwin. Some were better organised than others. But it is amazing to watch the hypocrisy of the Greens, who are now trying to pretend that everyone is tarred by the brush of the extreme minority that was there, yet when anyone tries to do that to a protest they're involved with, they are racists. Fair dinkum. Now, again, it is a nuanced point, but I will continue to make it, which is that we had a federal election. It was in May. For the past 3 years on this program, above all others, we have been talking relentlessly and showing you the data about migration. We have been talking about the rental crisis, not just the housing crisis. We have relentlessly talked about every single state in the country where, because of the number of people who live amongst us already, and by that I mean people born here, people from somewhere else, be it 2 weeks ago or 20,000 years ago. We're in a scenario right now where if you call 000, there are some parts of the country where the ambulance may not turn up. If it does turn up, you're going to have to sit in the back of the ambulance because there's not enough space inside a hospital. There are very serious conversations to be had. But remember I showed you the writings of Nikki Sava in the middle of the last electoral term, where their conclusion after Australia made the choice that it did with The Voice was that immigration would be next. She was the first of many to say that any conversation about the number of people coming to the country must be interpreted as racist. We have seen in the suburban electorates of Melbourne and Sydney, this message has been deliberately misinterpreted to the success of the Labor Party. Now, again, you may not like me saying it, you may hate me showing you this clip, but the Prime Minister is unmoved by our pleas for this system to change. Because, you see, he is part of the problem that is big Australia. Now, again, I want people to come from everywhere in the world to enjoy the most peaceful and wonderful country in the world. I just want the infrastructure to keep up with it. There's nothing new. Before this rally had happened, or before this rally was an idea, I've said exactly the same thing for the full 15 years that we've been having our conversations here on television. I don't say that by way of self-justification. I say it by way of showing you the proof that we have been in this conversation and in this debate for a long time, and we will be in it for a long time to come. There are many ways to express yourself. I admire the good folk who did so on the weekend. I abhor some of the poor behaviour. And while the abuse will continue to come my way because I told people to avoid this thing last week, and so many others will dance around it, the reality is I had to draw a line somewhere. And I certainly draw the line at some of the nasty stuff that ended up being used by people like the Greens to try to tar everyone with that brush. It's not fair and it's not okay. But the Prime Minister is sitting on 94 seats in the federal parliament. We had an election in May. We had attempts to have this conversation, yet the conversation was rejected by the majority of voters in the majority of seats. You can hate me for saying it, but that is the reality. Does that mean that we stop the conversation? No. Does it mean that we plough on blindly? No. Does it mean that we work out how best to convey this issue to people who need it pointed out to them without all of the accusations that have been thrown around by the Greens today? Anyway, here's the Prime Minister patting himself on the back. Remember, they started the day with everyone's a racist, and the record tonight is the Prime Minister is saying what I am saying, what Susan Lee is saying, what Pauline Hanson is saying, what Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price is saying, that the majority of people who were there meant nothing but the best.
Regarding the will of the people, that's called elections. And we have a proud democracy in this country, and I defend it. And people in this country voted for a government that would understand that modern Australia was, as the Minister has just reflected, a different nation than it was under the White Australia policy some time ago. And they voted for a government that would understand that our diversity is a strength in modern Australia.
All right, well, funnily enough, something that we have done for a long time. And if I seem a little bit cranky, it's because I am. Because, again, while I completely understand and completely accept people who want to scream at me because I didn't support the marches, this is the stuff that I've been doing on the telly for how long now? I'll continue to do it regardless of whether you liked or didn't like what I had to say when it came to the rally. I don't say that out of arrogance. I don't say that to have the last word. I just say it to those that are interested in the conversation. Hopefully the goodwill has been built up over many years, so let's continue having it now. Now, with those huge numbers that are coming into the country, there is not the infrastructure to match. That has always been my issue. It continues to be my issue. Supposedly, this was an issue that was being fixed by this government in their first year, in their second year, in their third year. In the beginning of the early weeks and months of their second term, they were sitting around a table. Oh, they're working all of this out. We're going to get more houses, 1.2 million. How many of those will be social housing for the, 100,000 people that are already waiting for public housing? Oh, whatever. Look over here, free Medicare for everyone. Well, what about this? After the election, surprise, surprise, the reality of the numbers are exactly what we said they were in the lead up to the election. That the government was yibby-yabbing, but there was not an actual increase in the number of homes being approved. These are both private and publicly funded. These are both units and houses. Housing approvals fell by 8.2% in July, meaning just 15,769 dwellings were approved in July. That's in the entire country. That's units, that's townhouses, that's granny flats, that's homes, that's McMansions. 15,000. As for New South Wales, the units approvals have fallen by 24%, or should I say 28%, in the past month alone. Again, they talk the talk, they don't walk the walk, we keep the receipts. Which brings me to the concern many people have had since I mentioned to you last night about a Senate inquiry that was taking place last week. So this is the joy of watching the Sunday night show. We get the run on everyone else. So be here at 9 o'clock Australian Eastern Time each and every Sunday night. If the footy's running late or the cricket's on, please series link us or make sure that you check us out at skynews.com.au for just $5 a month. Now, in this aged care conversation, some 200,000 people are currently waiting to either be assessed for a home care position or even after they've been assessed to get a home care package. This means 200,000 people, 2 MCGs of people who want to stay in their home for as long as they physically can before they have to move into an aged care facility. 200,000. Now, again, reading from this basic information, and let me break the numbers down because you can follow the data. The number of Australians who've been assessed but are still waiting to receive care was nearly 90,000 as of March. The Department of Health on Friday confirmed for the first time the number of people waiting simply for an assessment was now more than 120,000. The evidence confirms that more than 200,000 elderly Australians were either waiting for care after being assessed or waiting to be assessed. Now, we have a new face to show you. It's a person who, even if you follow politics as hardcore as you do, you've never heard before. This is the bloke who is one of the aged care ministers. Mark Butler is the main aged care minister. This is the junior burger. And despite the bed hair, it was his opportunity to get out there today and be in the spotlight. These are some of the questions that he copped. Wait till you hear his nothing answers.
Of Labor's promised 83,000 new home care packages, 0 have been delivered. Meanwhile, more than 200,000 Australians are still waiting for either a home care package or an assessment of a package. Will the minister apologise to these 200,000 elderly Australians and their families for this betrayal?
As a result of Labor deferring the commencement of home care packages from July 1 to November 1, a vulnerable 90-year-old Australian is suffering for too long. Will the minister say, as immediate priority, expedite the delivery of this man's package before it is too late?
Now, wait till you see this bloke. Now, this guy, central casting, pushed up the ranks thanks to the factions. Well, there are people who are able to make it through the spotlight. They go on to being senior ministers. We'll all find out whether the pressure is going to crush this bloke or whether they will turn him into a Labor Party darling diamond and he'll keep moving on. I am not convinced that he makes it to the next round.
Firstly, the Support at Home program, to which the opposition have been supportive in moving the initial legislation, provides the legislative framework for support at home. So the members opposite will understand that the legislation they voted for is a requirement for support at home packages to be delivered. So those 83,000 can begin to be delivered from the time that the legislation comes into effect. In the meantime, we continue to deliver packages each and every single week, the average being above 2,000 packages per week, to ensure that, in the meantime, Australians continue to receive the care that they need.
Scott Ray is his name. He is 38 years of age and he has a role in how many people in this country are going to be able to, Sam Ray, my apologies, to age themselves at home. Unbelievable. All right, a couple of other things worth mentioning here too. Now, as Canberra rolls on, let's have a conversation about kids and social media, because the excitement in Canberra today was that there are 100 days until the brand new age verification laws come into effect. This was given a preview in the newspapers this morning and was celebrated by the Communications Minister in the House today. Are you counting down 100 days to go until everyone has to tell the internet how old you are before you can be trusted as an adult? Because apparently we can't trust the kids.
We have 100 days to go until the start of our world-leading social media minimum age reforms. 100 days until we give kids 3 more years to build real-world connections and online resilience. 100 days until our children are empowered to know who they are before platforms assume who they are.
Well, there is a version of this system which is being trialled at the moment in the UK. There is a big race, and again, I support the idea of making sure that kids stay off social media for as long as possible. I would prefer parents to be involved rather than the government, but we are where we are. Now, often I've referred to the Prime Minister as each way elbow. Why? Because he takes 2 positions on the same issue. Waits till one ends up landing and that's where he ends up being. Well, what about each way Lambie? Because Jackie Lambie, as always, with the wind, which way is she going to blow? Remember, this is the person who overtly says, vote for me, I don't have any policies, it's going to be my job just to shit-can everyone else's. It's my job to criticise everyone else's ideas. I don't have to have an idea. 6 more years, please. Well, here she is today, talking about the system that is just 100 days away, because the winds are blowing a little bit of concern.
This will not work. And as a mother, I would hate to think I'm giving those social media companies more information about my own children. That is disgraceful. Your problem is the social media companies themselves, and that and the government of the day or the previous governments are not holding them responsible.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea. Why are we doing this? Too much information for those social media companies. Only problem was, could somebody find me a tape of Jackie Lambie talking up the idea when she was being interviewed and the wind was blowing a different way on the project? This from November last year.
The damage it is doing to our kids out there, the suicides that are going on, the low self-esteem, things like that. I think it's time our kids took a breath of fresh air and got back outside, especially those teenagers.
Look, she's rat cunning. She's very smart. She knows how to play everyone off a break, all right? She knows that she's the only person that Breakfast Television ever books from Tasmania. And then they can tick the Book of Tasmania. They know then, of course, that she'll always give a good grab and fire up a little bit and assume that everyone's too stupid to remember what she said 6 months ago. Well, every now and then there's a receipt. And there it is, Jackie Lambie, each way Lambie, on the issue when it comes to the social media age verification. Send your complaints to somebody else, Senator, because I don't care. All right, now, today I hosted the Bush Summit here in Darwin. If I'm a little ratty and a little tired, it's because it has been one heck of a long day. Early start for me. Who knew there was a 9 a.m? But there was. And well before it, we gathered here today. What an honour to stand in front of an NT News logo. Wonderful people here. Really cool people. It was great to host the Bush Summit. And if you want to find the full highlights, they're up now at skynews.com.au. A couple of gags landed the right way. That's good. That's good for hosting. Available for weddings, bar mitzvahs, all the rest of it here. Well, an absolute star. And I have said this from when she was the opposition leader more than a year ago to celebrating her victory 1 year and 1 week ago to now 1 year later, Leah Finocchiaro. Leah Finocchiaro is just in her early 40s and she is an absolute powerhouse as the Chief Minister of the Northern Territory. Is she human? Yes. Does she walk on water? No. Does she make mistakes? Yes, she's human. But in terms of presentation and focus, why can't we have more people like this on the Liberal side? And for all the conversations about the Conservative parties having a problem with women, this is the type of person who, after they have done their service in the Northern Territory, must be sent to Canberra to continue that service. She was fabulous today. Here she is in part about a central push, which is while the Territory doesn't have a lot of people, it's got a lot of opportunity. A lot of opportunity that, yes, can be turned into money, both for private enterprise, but also to benefit the people of the Territory. Don't you want this in a leader? When was the last time your Premier spoke like this?
But there is no doubt in my mind, in my team's mind, or in our government that we know that the success of this country rests on the success of the Northern Territory and that we must be turning those glossy brochures into action. And now is the time, more than ever before, to deliver on that potential for Australia, for Territorians, for our region and for our allied partners. We know that our mission is to improve the lives of Territorians and create a better Territory. That much is clear. And we've set a really strong pace and a clear course on what we're going to do and how we're going about to achieving that mission.
What about this?
But in the Northern Territory, we don't believe being part of the bush should be some sort of handicap. We believe it's a place of unrivalled wealth and a unique place that can deliver for this country. And this is just the beginning for the Territory and for us as a government. We are building momentum and driving results, and there is much more work to do. Now is the time for you to be a first mover and get excited about this frontier. There is no better way to secure Australia's future than investing in the Territory's future.
And if you are a person who is worried about their safety walking to and from work, worried about your wife or your daughter or any of your kids and the safety and their ability to protect themselves, today in the Northern Territory, brand new law passed. You are able to, just like in Western Australia, purchase pepper spray to be able to defend yourself. Now, this is an idea which is about keeping people safe, and when there is the physical imbalance, you've got a tool, a non-lethal tool that can help level it and you can get away. Here she is again. When was the last time you heard a leader in Australia talk with this clarity?
But from today, you will be able to legally purchase pepper spray for your own self-defence, to buy you time to get away, so that you don't have to scrape and scramble for the stick or the rock to defend yourself, so that you don't have to end up in hand-to-hand combat with someone who's formed that view to hurt you. This is about buying distance and buying you time to get away. And it's not compulsory. People can make their own choice. It's much stronger regulated than it is in WA, and we're proud of those safeguards. It is a trial, and we've got robust system to review it. But at the end of the day, if you need to defend yourself, our job is to make sure you have every opportunity to be safe.
And speaking of rock stars, Senator Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price. We love having her on. She's a regular on this program. She will be around on Mondays. We love having a conversation with her. Well, she hit it out of the park. Go and find this. It's up on our YouTube page right now. It's an incredible conversation about the territory, about the country, about China, about wokeism, about how far this government has gone when it comes to excessive regulations. Talk about a leader. Roll the tape.
Consider for a moment what we've seen during the more than 3 years that the Albanese government has been in power. We've seen record government spending. Our economy will soon be burdened with $1 trillion of debt for the very first time. A burden our children and our grandchildren will, of course, have to bear. We've seen an appetite for government intrusion into the lives of Australians. Federal Labor has enacted some 5,000 new regulations during its time in office. And we've seen interference across the economy. Interference through a renewables-only energy policy that's making your power bills skyrocket and forcing you to live in the way the government wants you to, not the way you need to live.
She is awesome. She is awesome, and she's a grandma who is in the fight. She is spectacular. You can see all those highlights at skynews.com.au, and please go over to our YouTube page where you'll see the highlights of this program. And again, share the content. It does nothing more than annoy a lefty for the message to go as far and wide. Do it via skynews.com.au. Do it via the various social media pages and, of course, our YouTube page.